All right, so I'm gonna be going over point 7 and point 8 modules in the Learning C++ tutorial website. So I think we're just probably just me going over like fucking compiling. I guess is what it says, compiling your first program. Probably gonna write our first program. Let me see. Yeah, it just tells us what we want to do. What are precompiled headers? Okay. Anyways, let's just read through this shit. All right, so to write a C++ program inside an IDE, we typically start by creating a new project. Should I do this in a bit? Project is a container that holds all of your source code files, images, data files, etc. that are needed to produce an executable or a library, website, etc. that you can run or use. The project also saves various IDE compiler and linker settings, as well as remembering where you left off, so that when you reopen the project later, the state of the IDE can be restored to wherever you left off. When you choose to compile your program, all of the .cpp files in the project will get compiled and linked. Each project corresponds to one program. When you're ready to create a second program, you either need to create a new project or overwrite the code in an existing project. You don't want to keep it. Project files are generally IDE specific, so a project created for one IDE wouldn't be recreated in a different IDE. Best practice, create a new project for each new program you write, obviously. Console products. When you create a new project, you'll generally be asked what type of project you want to create. All the projects that we will create in this tutorial will be console projects. Console project means that we're going to create programs that can be run from the Windows, Linux, or Mac console. Here's a screenshot of the Windows console. By default, console applications have no graphical user interface, GUI. They print text to the console or input from the keyboard and are compiled into standalone executable files. This is perfect for learning C++ because it keeps the complexity to a minimum and ensures things work on a wide variety of systems. Don't worry if you've never used the console before or don't know how to access it. We'll compile and launch our programs through our IDEs, which will invoke the console when necessary. Workspaces/solutions. When you create a new project for your program, many IDEs will automatically add your project to a workspace or a solution. The term varies by IDE. A workspace or solution is a container that can hold one or more related projects. For example, if you were writing a game and wanted to have a separate executable for single player and multiplayer, you need to create two projects. It wouldn't make sense for both of these projects to be completely independent. After all, they're part of the same game. Most likely, each would be configured as a separate project than a single workspace SaaS solution. Although you can add multiple projects to a single solution, we generally recommend creating a new workspace or a solution for each program, especially while learning. It's simpler and there's less chance of something going wrong. Writing your first program. Traditionally, the first program programmers write in a language is the infamous Hello World program, and we aren't going to deprive you of that experience. You'll thank us later. Okay, I'm just gonna do this because it's just gonna go through creating a new project. If you already open a project, you can access this dialog via the file menu new project. Select Windows Desktop Wizard and click Next. If you don't see this, and you probably need to choose install the development, whatever, installing integrated environment. So let's do create new project. I usually do empty project. It's saying create a Windows desktop wizard. I guess we'll do this. I'll just call it project 4. Let me see what that want to do. So select Windows desktop and click next. Go back to lesson and reinstall Visual Studio Authenticated next to the dialog of this. Replace 6's project name with Hello World. You can do that if you want to. I'm not going to waste my time. It's recommended that you also check the place solution and project in the same directory, as this reduces the number of subdirectories that get created with each project. Click Create to continue. Finally, you'll see one last dialog. Make sure the application type is set as console application.exe. Precompiled header option is selected, then click OK. Yeah, console application.exe. And we don't want to have precompiled headers, so click OK. Alright. Let's read it. Okay. What are precompiled headers and why are we turning them off? In large projects, those with many code files, precompiled headers can improve compilation speed by avoiding some redundant compilation that tends to occur in large projects. However, precompiled headers require extra work to use, and for small projects such as those you'll create in our tutorials, make little difference in compilation. Bro. Making a video. Give me a min. Okay. Creating a project in Visual Studio 2017 or older. To create a new project in Visual Studio 2017 or older, go to File menu. You don't have to worry about this. Visual Studio Solution Explorer. On the left side or right side of the window, you'll see a window titled Solution Explorer. Inside this window, Visual Studio has created a solution for you. Solution hello world. Within that, within the name is bold. And it's a new project. Hello world. Within this project, Visual Studio is created. Okay, yeah. So this is basically just saying that over here, this is our Solution Explorer. As you can see, it says it right there. Within here, we have, it has its own, we have a project 4, or whatever your project name is. You can name whatever you want. I'm just going to turn off, return show all files on. So it'll get rid of the fucking default presentation. So we can just see this. If you want to, you can add a new folder. I usually just call it source. This is where I put my source files in. Let's move that in there. And so now we have a folder within here. So if we open this folder in File Explorer, we can see our source file, and inside of it has our fucking folder, instead of all just being fucking thrown into here. Anyway, so this basically is making a, yeah, it's just making a fucking int main function, and inside that main function we have, or inside the block, I guess, because these braces are called in brace, like in C++, when you have these braces like this, it forms a block. So with everything within this code will be executed when the int main function is called. So, which it's being called right now, so everything within here, within this block is executed. So the standard library, C out, which is character out, and then it's executing the string, which is hello world. So anything enclosed in quotation marks are strings in C++, and \n is a new line character. So basically it just makes a new line. So if I were to print out, so yeah, I just tab this. Oh fuck. So if I printed this out with the new line characters, they would just add on top of each other. Let's print one out without the new line character. Alright, so if I run this, my Windows debugger, see hello world, a new line character. This is hello world, no new line character, so just print on top of each other. You can also do, which this is what I'm usually gonna do, is I'm gonna use standard inline. That's what I usually do when I'm coding. I just don't really like using the \n, to be honest. Anyways, all right. In the text editor, you will see that Visual Studio Code, or Visual Studio has already opened hello world.cpp and created some code for you. Select and delete all the code and type/copy the following into your IDE. So we can just copy this. So Control A to select everything. Delete or backspace, and just Control V and copy and paste this. So also, actually no, that's too advanced. I'm not gonna that now. To compile your program, either press F7 doesn't work, try Control-Shift-B, or go to the build menu, build solution. If it all goes well, you should see the following appear in the output window. So it says press F7 to build. Well, I'm just gonna right click as rebuild. Right. What even is the build? I don't know what the key is to build in fucking Visual Studio, to be honest. Is it F5? F5 just runs it. Control-Shift-B. Oh, Control-Shift-B builds it. But it's already been built, so we have to rebuild it to build it. Okay, so yeah, it's Control-Shift-B builds in Visual Studio. Alright, so this means your compile was successful, so we got building successful. Q question, I got error C1010, fatal error C10, unexpected end of file while looking for precompiled header. Did you forget to add hashtag include? Why not? So yeah, you forgot to turn off precompiled headers when you created your project. To run your compiled program, press Control 5 or go to the debug menu and choose start without debugging. You will see something like the following. So we're going to do Control F5 and just run it like this. I think it's just doing this right here. Yeah, it's just this little green button. And the F5 runs the debugger. Okay, respect. This is literally a program. Congrats if you compiled your first program. Compiled and ran your first program. When you run a program directly with Visual Studio, you may see an additional line of output that looks something like this. So users, whatever your user is, source, repos, process, exit with code 0. There's no more Visual Studio is providing some additional information about whether your program exited normally or abnormally. Discuss this further in lesson 2.2, function return values. Yeah, this is the return value for the function. So it's returning 0 because it has to return an integer. is an int. It's an int function, right? So creating a project in code blocks. Okay, we're not gonna worry about this. Okay, this is for Linux users. Okay, if compiling fails, it's okay to take a deep breath. We can probably fix it. First, look at the error message that the compiler gave you. Most often, they will contain a line number indicating which line was in error. Examine both that line and the lines around it and make sure there are no types of misspellings. Also, make sure you're not including the line numbers in your code. Your editor should be providing those. Second, look at the Q&A and lesson. We'll look at that later, as your issue may be covered there. Third, read the comments below the lesson containing the example you're compiling. Someone may have encountered the same issue and provided a solution. Finally, if all of the above fail, try searching for your error message on your favorite search engine. It's likely someone else has encountered this issue before. Yeah, if you have an error, I would just go to ChatGPT and just paste it in there, to be honest. And it'll probably tell you how to fix it. If your program runs but the console window flashes and closes immediately, when a console program is run, console window will open and any output from the program will be written into the console window. Program is finished running, most modern IDEs will keep the console open until you press a key. So yeah, so this is basically saying when, okay, so if we took this, so we built a file, right? So we go to x64 debug, 34.exe. When we open this, it'll instantly close. That's because this actually isn't. So if I were to make, let's just say I made this a while loop, right? So I just said while true. So this will always be true, right? Bro, what the fuck just happened? So while true, not return 0. Just say print hello world. Yeah, well, this is gonna print out hello world about 1,000,000 times per second here. Yeah, it's gonna print it out. So this will basically keep it open for you, but this is also gonna print it out at 1,000 miles per second because it's saying while true, print out hello world. So considering this is always true, we can make an if statement real quick. Okay. If yeah, we can just do that. So this basically is standard library character input. So if we put a character, a dot get, so it's gonna dot get, and whatever I put in is gonna be stored within that side that's got dot get fucking function, which is within the standard standard library, right? Is equal to lowercase q. It'll break out of this loop, which I don't really know why I'm going over this, but I'm just doing it so you know how to fucking. So hello world. So I ran it, and if I press Q, press enter, it automatically closes. So pretty gangster. Anyways, did I just? Oh, I thought I just closed up my LibreOffice for a second. Oh, the. Alright, anyways, second add the following code at the end. Okay, what is the difference between the compile, build, rebuild, clean, and run / start options in my IDE? In lesson 0.5, instruction of the compiler maker and libraries, we show that to produce an executable that can be run. Each code file in a program is compiled into an object file, and the object files are linked into an executable. When a code file is compiled, your IDE may cache the resulting object file. That way, if the program is compiled again in the future, any code file that hasn't been modified doesn't need to be recompiled. The cache object file from last time can be reused. This can speed up compilation significantly. Speed up compilation time significantly at the cost of a little bit of disk space. With that in mind, here's what each of the options typically does. Build compiles all modified code files in the project or workspace solution and links the object files into an executable. No code files have been modified since the last build. This option is nothing. Clean removes all cached objects and executables, so the next time the project is built, all files will be recompiled and no executable produced. Rebuild does a clean followed by a build. Compile recompiles a single code file regardless of whether it has been cached previously. This option is not with the link or previous executable. Run / start executes the executable from a prior build. Some IDEs, for example, Visual Studio will invoke a build before doing a run to ensure you're running the latest version of your code. Otherwise, for example, code blocks just execute the prior executable. Although we talk informally about compiling our programs, to actually compile our programs, we'll typically choose the build or run option. To do so. Conclusion, congratulations, you made it through the hardest part of the tutorial, installing the IDE and compiling first program. Don't worry if you don't understand what the different lines in the Hello World program do. We'll examine and explain each line in detail at the start of the next chapter. Jesus, are you kidding me? I'm gonna explain in detail how the Hello World function works. Fantastic. In this section, we'll address some of the common issues that new programmers seem to run across with fairly high probability. It's not meant to be a comprehensive list or compilation or execution problems, rather a pragmatic list of solutions to very basic issues. If you have any suggestions for other issues that might be added to this list, post them in the comment section below. For general runtime issues, when executing a program, the console window blinks and then closes immediately. First, add or ensure the following lines are near the top of your program. Just the users, make sure these lines appear after hashtag include pch.h or hashtag include. So this is saying we have, these are precompiled headers, which we don't have. Those exist. The next program, the console window blinks and closes immediately. So it's just saying add on hashtag include limits. So we can just get rid of all this in here. Alright, second, add the following code at the end of your main function right before the return statement. Okay, so add that before your return statement. So this will clear, which actually adds a comment saying what it does. So it resets any error flags. This is ignoring the standard numeric underscore limits of the stream size. So ignore any characters in the input buffer until we find an enter character. So until you enter a character, it won't return 0, or it won't clear. And this is, or it won't end. My bad. Standard sin.get one more char from the user. So this allows you to get the character. So we pretty much, if we run this and type enter. So if I type A and press enter, and enter no close, and we're done. Alright. This will cause your program to wait for the user to pass a key before continuing, which will give you time to examine your program's output before your operating system closes the window. Other solutions such as the commonly suggested system pause solution may only work on certain operating systems that should be avoided. Older versions of Visual Studio may not pause when the program is run and start with debugging F5 mode. Try running and start with debugging control F5 mode. Alright. I'm going to program to get a window but no output. Your virus scanner out there malware may be blocking execution. Try disabling it temporarily to see if that's an issue. Yeah, if you want to be able to disable your antivirus, get was it Windows D? What is it called? D control? Oh yeah, it's called D control. Yeah, you can go download D control. That's what I used to disable my antivirus. The Microsoft Defender is included Windows Muppet software that runs in the background. So yeah, if you want to be able to disable your antivirus, just go here, just download D control. Alright. My program compiles, but it's not working great. What do I do? Debug it. There are tips. Okay. General compile time issues. When I compile my program, I get an error about unresolved external symbol main. That means your compiler can't find your main function. Oh, unresolved external symbol underscore main. It's fucking strange. All programs must include a main function. There are a few things to check. Does your code include a function named main? Is main spelled correctly when you compile your program? Do you see the file that contains function main get compiled? If not, either move the main function to one that is, or add the file to your project. Did you create a console project? Try creating a new console project. When I compile my program, I get an error that mains are defined or about multiple definitions for main. A C++ program is only allowed to have a single function named main. Your C++ program has more than one. Examine the files in your project and delete all main functions except one. Trying to use functionality doesn't work. If your compiler is old, it may not support these. Okay, when trying to use sin, which character in, character out, or inline character, the compiler says sin, cout, or inline is an undeclared identifier. Make sure you've included the following line near the top of your file. Should include IO stream. Second, make sure each use of sin, cout, and inline are prefixed by standard for the standard library. This is fix your issue. Okay, when trying to use inline. This is a bunch of fucking Okay, if y'all want to read through all that, you can if you have any like problems, but I mean I'm not gonna read through all that because most of that stuff is useless to me. Alright. I can do this one real quick. A build configuration, also called a build target, is a collection of project settings that determines how your IDE will build your project. The build configuration typically includes things like what the executable will be named, what directories the IDE will look in for, other code and library files, whether to keep or strip out debugging information, how much to have the compiler optimize your program, etc. Generally, you want to leave these settings at their default values unless you have a specific reason to change something. What they're talking about is if I click on here, I go to properties, I can change the properties of my file, okay, my project. For this one, yeah, you just change the properties of your solution, which you're never gonna do, by the way. Basically never gonna do. But you sometimes you're gonna want to change this. Like maybe change your C++ standard. We'll just change it to C++ 20, for example. To press OK. Add that. You can change your character set from Unicode to multi-byte, depending on whichever one you want to use. If you like coding in Chinese or something, I don't know. You can customize your linker. When it manifests, you can make it so it has to be run as administrator. If you have like a program that needs to edit the memory of a game or something, it needs to be able to run it at the administrator level to be able to access virtual memory of different processes, or to be able to see them. So that's what it's talking about when it says build configuration. Debug configuration is designed to help you debug your program. It's generally the one you will use when writing your programs. This configuration turns off all optimizations and includes debugging information, which makes your programs larger and slower, but much easier to debug. Debug configuration is usually selected as the active configuration by default. Talk more about debugging techniques in a later session. So this is talking about our configuration is on debug actively. We can turn it to release mode, which won't really change anything. It just won't give us a bunch of debug information. The release configuration is designed to be used when releasing program to the public. This version is typically optimized for size and performance and to contain extra debug information. Because the release configuration includes all optimizations, this mode is also useful for testing the performance of your code. When the Hello World program for lesson 0.7, compiling your first program, was built using Visual Studio, the executable produced in the debug configuration 65 kilobytes, whereas the executable built in the release version was 12 kilobytes. Difference is largely due to the extra debugging information kept in the debug build. Although you can create your own custom build configurations, you'll rarely have a reason to unless you want to compare two builds made using different compiler settings. Best practice, use a debug build configuration when developing your programs, and when you're ready to release it, use release mode. Some IDEs, for example, Visual Studio, also create separate build configurations for different platforms. For example, Visual Studio creates build configurations for both the x86, which is 32-bit, and the x64, 64-bit platforms. Switching between the build configurations, so it's just going to show you, press here to change it to debug, which for us, it's going to be right here. So release debug. GCC and Clang users, if you use any of these, read through this. Modifying build configurations. In the next few lessons, we'll show you how to tweak some settings in your build configurations. Whenever changing your project setting, we recommend making the change in all build configurations. This will help prevent making the change to the wrong build configuration and ensure the change is applied if you happen to switch between build configurations. It's pretty easy. When it says that, make sure they're all like. So you can do, when you go to configure, you can change it to I only want to change debug, I only want to change release, or I only want to change active release, but we're gonna always do all configurations, okay? And we'll do all platforms too. So because we can code with an x86 or x64, so depending on if you want your program to be a 32-bit program or 64-bit, you can change it right here. Anyways, that's gonna be it for this video. I'll probably upload again tomorrow, I guess. Thank you for watching.